University, they could be comfortable with that name selection. They had absolutely no problems with the University of Central Colorado. With respect to the last question, we have not made a determination yet of how we will handle whether there would be a nominal fee for the cost of replacing a degree, or whether we would be able to find a donor who would pay for that for alums. So we know that in other institutions it's done both ways. It's been done both ways. Some institutions have absorbed the cost, some have had a nominal cost. Certainly, no matter what we do, there would be a process of notifying alums of whatever that process is and what they would need to do to get their new degree, whether it was at a nominal cost or for free.
I just want to add to that a related question that some of you may be thinking about that goes beyond the degree itself, and that is, well, if the school changes its name, what do I put on my resume? And the answer is that you have a choice. Depending on your position and how you want to frame it, you can say in your resume that you attended Metropolitan State College of Denver, and then put in parentheses, currently known as the new name, or you can say that you attended and graduated from the new name, whatever that might be, and put in parentheses, formerly Metropolitan State College of Denver. So there's an easy way to address it one way or another.
So two very good questions over the phone. I would like to remind you what that number is, 1-800-392-9307. So if you have a question, please don't hesitate to call. We do have something that's been tweeted in, and the question is, how important do you think maintaining Metro as part of the name might be?
Well, it's very clear that for many people, Metro or Metropolitan is an affectionate part of the name, and that that's the school they went to, and that it's important. And certainly, Metropolitan connotes the urbanness. What it doesn't do is necessarily tell you what urban area it's in. And so I think the point that the trustees will have to struggle with, which is which, in terms of where we're at and where we're going as an institution, is ultimately more important. Is it more important to let the word Denver or something like that determine, say, urban for you and clearly give a geographic area? Or do we believe in the long run that we're better served by the traditions of the word metropolitan continuing to be in the name? And I think that, quite frankly, is the toughest question for the board to deal with. But I do think, the point that Chuck made, which is the combination, when you put it all together, the Metropolitan State College of Denver, I think we all have found becomes very long, and people sort of tune out after you get to Metropolitan State College and never quite get to the of Denver part.
Another question on Twitter. How much will a name change cost? Great question. We have had estimates in the neighborhood of $500,000. If one simply said at day one, everything you have you are going to throw away and you are going to replace it that first day with new material, and not sort of process it out over time. We think that by having a strategy which essentially says what we have we will work through over time will significantly reduce that impact. Obviously, what you can't change is the costs that are associated with physical monuments, where you literally have to change the physical monument, the name on a building that says Metropolitan State College of Denver, or on a sign where you have to replace that. And to the extent that you have costs that are associated with people, I mean, if people are working on those things, that's a real cost that they could be doing some other function, presumably, over time. I think part of what we're saying is the discussion is, will those costs be offset by enhanced value of the degree for alumni out in the marketplace? And will it be offset by increased fundraising from private philanthropists and others who associate different levels of quality with the words university versus college?
We have another tweeted question. Once the survey is completed, will the results be made public?
You know, we intend to bring the top 2 names forward to the board for discussion, but we have always believed this is an open process. We certainly have no reason not to make all that data available in terms of how people assessed the names, because we've asked you to rank them in your individual priority order. So those are certainly things that we will be more than happy to put, I think, on a website.
I can add to that, too, just to remind people that the survey results are one factor that the Board of Trustees will consider as it considers the name change. And just to be clear, that they are not mandated to go with whatever the top vote getter is. They need to evaluate a number of factors before determining the name.
Here's another question from Twitter. Have you looked into the confusion of relationship that might be caused by having North, South, East, and West Colorado universities?
I don't know that I could say we've looked into the confusion that might be related to having, I guess, what you would refer to as the campus universities. My own experience in other states that have had those kinds of names is that there wasn't any confusion, and I can only speak from, having been in Washington, where we had the University of Washington, Washington State University, Eastern Washington University, Western Washington University, and Central Washington University. There was no confusion in that state about where those universities were located and how they were differentiated among each other. So, but I can't speak to every state where that uses that kind of system for naming their universities. Just my own personal experience was we didn't have those issues in the state of Washington when I was there.
I just want to add one related point to that, which would be, what about the confusion between Denver State University and the University of Denver, for example? And there are a number of other cities, such as Portland, where there's a University of Portland and a Portland State. They're also in San Diego, there's University of San Diego and San Diego State. In Chicago, there's University of Chicago and Chicago State. Just to point out that those cities have separate schools, one that says University of and one that incorporates the word state, and they seem to be doing just fine.
And in every case, in those examples, it's a private university and a public university. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, we have a question on Facebook. Is this all just a PR stunt?
I don't think the trustees nor I feel this is a PR stunt at all. I think we are genuinely concerned about maximizing the value of the degree for alumni and for current and future students, and that this whole process is a process that's really meant to try to determine what is the best way through the use of the name to maximize the value of the degree granted by our college.
Okay, here's a question from Facebook. With a name change, does this mean that the college is pursuing more master's level programs?
We have said very clearly that the first thing we need to do is implement the first 3 degrees that we have been authorized to implement and do that well. And assess, get some people graduated, some students graduated, and assess the quality of those programs. Once that has been accomplished, then we will consider what and if any additional master's degree programs we would move forward with at that time. I do think we believe that if you look around the country, regional comprehensive baccalaureate and master's granting institutions generally offer a broad array of bachelor's degrees and a modest array of master's degrees. And they do it primarily around areas that are directly related to the workforce, so that they're focused on either where the master's degree is really an entry point into a profession, or it is a critical component of continuing in the profession. And so that's the direction I think we're thinking about. And if I were to sort of say, what do I see in the long term over time our college evolving towards, I see us very much like one of the urban Cal State University institutions. We serve a very, very similar kind of student body. We serve a very similar kind of role within the urban setting. And I think play that same kind of responsibility for the workforce.
So another question from Facebook. If it's not broken, don't fix it. There's nothing wrong with the current name, so why are you fixing it?
I think that's an absolutely legitimate viewpoint, and we recognize that there are many people who believe the current name is absolutely appropriate. I think we also believe that from the work we've done, that there are many people who believe that there are ways in which the value of the degree could be enhanced by a change in the name. And I think that's the purpose of this whole process, is to try to get people's perceptions about that, have them weigh in on the process, get as much quantifiable and information and qualitative information about it, and then try to make the best decision that we possibly can to enhance the degrees of our graduates.
And I would just add to that, too, that I'm sure you're all aware of the difficult economic times we're facing and of the continued budget cuts that are impacting higher education. And one of the reasons to consider a new name is to allow the institution to garner more resources to enable it to keep moving towards its mission and its vision. And that if a new name can bring in more funding, then it's a very valuable way to continue the institution's path.
Another question from Facebook. Are we doing this because Metro State is changing their name?
Mesa State.
Mesa State is changing their name.
Absolutely not. Let me just say, we started our process actually well before Mesa did, having started ours in February of last year, as I said. I actually didn't find out that Mesa was moving forward with a proposed name change until about October of this year, when someone that I work with had informed me that they were a part of a focus group that Mesa was conducting about a potential name change. I had my first conversation with President Foster about that sometime, I think, in November. So we had completely separate processes, independent of each other. We certainly had proceeded down our path, not knowing that Mesa was considering such a decision, and these two processes happened to come together by, I think, just by accident at the end of the last calendar year.
Here's a question that's been tweeted to us. Is there an institution that has recently changed its name that you feel is a good example for us to follow?
Chuck, did you?
Okay, well, I think that, what's interesting is that a number of schools have changed their name. Dozens of schools, over 100 schools have changed their name in the last 20 years. And so